This week, we're going to take a look at supervision as it relates to physical education, teacher education. As you know, your book focuses primarily on supervision in the field of education. Yet this week, we're going to kind of move away from the book and talk specifically about physical education and what supervision looks like in that realm. So when we think about supervision, the main teacher that we're going to focus on are induction teachers, because even though supervision is important throughout one's career, supervision during the first couple of years of teaching is so important. One of the things you'll notice is that most teachers achieve high degree of comfort and effectiveness by the end of the second or third year. So the question becomes, why doesn't it happen at the end of the first year? As you already know, those of you who have been teaching and wherever that may be, you realize that at the end of the first year, you're almost relieved that it's over. The year probably flew by because it was just so chaotic and there were so many things happening and you were learning so much, you were trying to juggle so many responsibilities. At the end of the first year, we're more relieved than anything else. But as a supervisor, our job is to provide the support that a teacher needs to be able to continue on their quest to being quality teachers. And so many times the comfort and the effectiveness of the teacher doesn't necessarily occur at a high level until the end of the second or the third year. So what does that mean for us as supervisors? One, we need to recognize their effectiveness and their abilities. Highlight what they're good at. Talk about the ways that they're effective as teachers and help them to feel really good about their ability to teach. What you don't want to focus on is, okay, now you've taught for 3 years. All right, now you have a little bit more experience. And experience in time doesn't necessarily mean anything. One of the things we're looking at is student growth measures. And so we want to see, is learning taking place? When we think about the induction stage, two things we want to occur. We want learning to take place, and we want teachers to to have a high level of autonomy. These are the most appropriate these are the most appropriate labels during the induction stage. So as a supervisor, we need to support them in finding ways for student learning to take place, but we also want them to have the utmost confidence so that they can do things on their own. During college, they're surrounded by people who are trying to assist them, who are trying to support them, and who are trying to help them. But once we get into the teaching field, everything that we do, the majority of the time is going to be done on our own. So we want them to become autonomous so that they can do things and handle any situation during their own time. Performance affects attitudes toward teaching, career enjoyment, and many professional choices, and the environment greatly influences teacher effectiveness. So when we think about this and we think about our role as supervisors, we want to provide support. We want to put them in a situation where they love their job and they love learning and they want to get better day after day and become those quality teachers that we desire. One thing it is lacking, though, during the induction stage is regular monitoring and support. So the question becomes, why? Why is that lacking? Well, the number one reason is because all of the supervisors are typically other teachers. And so they have a job as a teacher as well. They have many things on their plate. They have many things that are occupying their time. And so it can be very challenging for them to provide that monitoring that may be needed during that first year of teaching. What we have to become masters of is understanding how to use or to make good use of informal visits, which is what we talked about in previous weeks in this particular class. Informal visits, make sure your face, that the teachers are seeing your face on a regular basis. Make sure that you are open to them and that you are always there to help them in any situation that they may incur. And so we want to look at some characteristics of induction teacher supervision. Number one, experimenting with instructional strategies. We always want to encourage our teachers to use a variety of strategies, because when they typically come out of college, they may be effective with one type of teaching strategy, but they may not necessarily be effective with others. We want them to take risks. We want them to try things. We want them to see what they can use in their classroom to help student learning to take place. Now, for those of you who took my instructional models class, you know that there's a variety of ways that we can teach physical education, but we have to make sure that we're exploring different ways of teaching, because if we don't and we never do it, we're never going to gain the confidence that's needed to use those strategies in the classroom. Learning routines. One of the best ways of minimizing the amount of time that's lost in the classroom is being effective with your routines and being effective with your protocols. If we can do those things, not only is it going to be wasted energy on our part, but we're saving time and we're devoting more time to learning the skills that are needed for lifetime activity. Designing an instructional supervision plan. Essentially, as a supervisor and as an induction teacher, we want to highlight and focus on areas of strength. We want to look at ways we need to improve. We want to identify performance parameters, and we want to see or find the necessary support, because I may not be able to provide that support as a supervising teacher. We may need to find a variety of outlets that can be used to provide this support, because as we already know, there is no maximum limit on support. Support can come in a variety of ways. Number 4, using several supervisors. So when we look at that support, one of the things we have to realize is, as a supervising teacher, there's going to be certain things that I can provide to the induction teacher, but there may be other areas that I may not be as strong in. Well, there's going to be other teachers at your school who may be very strong in those areas and can provide the support that maybe we can't provide. And so always look for different people who can provide that feedback that may be beneficial for the induction teacher. And then finally, continue to develop teaching skills. As teachers, one of the things we cannot do is we can never get to the point where we say, okay, I've got it, there's nothing else to learn, I can do this year after year and I can be effective as a teacher. The world is always changing. The way that students learn is always changing. The strategies that are needed are always changing. And that's why we have workshops every year. We have conferences every year, because ideas are always evolving, and there's always things that can assist us as we're teaching in the classroom. So this week you're going to be reading some different scenarios, and as an induction teacher there will be new experiences which can provide challenge. And so the question I want you to consider is this: how would you respond to each situation? Okay, now you can look at this from 2 points of views. You can look at it as an induction teacher. You can also look at it as a supervisor, because again, if I'm in a supervisory role, how would I respond to that situation? How would I assist the induction teacher? But as an induction teacher, how would I respond to it? And so when you're answering these questions this week as it relates to these different scenarios, just think in general. How would I respond if this was to happen while I was in the classroom? And then finally, let's just take a quick look at summarize the things as it relates to physical education, teacher education, supervision. One, it's very easy to let induction teachers slip through the cracks. As supervisors, we have to make every possible effort to not let this happen. How does it happen? Most often it happens because teachers don't feel confident. Teachers may not like what they're doing. Teachers run into more problems than celebration. And so as supervisors, we want to make sure that this doesn't happen with teachers that we are working with. Schools are great places for learning about teaching and how to teach. And so one of the things we want to make sure occurs in our time with an induction teacher is give them every possibility to learn more about teaching and how to teach in their classroom. Supervision for the induction stage, to help teachers become more independent. Remember, we talked about the word autonomy, and to have in place the support mechanisms needed when self-supervision is not adequate. I'm going to provide support, but who else can provide that support? Other teachers, other professionals. Look for people that can help you and assist you as you're working with these induction teachers. As we look at research on the supervision of student teachers, a couple of things do stand out as we think about research. Look at the second bullet point. Cooperating teachers give minimal feedback hold few conferences, and spend little time observing their student teachers. The question I want you to consider when you look at this is why. Okay, we've talked about this over and over again, and we can say yes, it's because they don't have a lot of time, but why else? What are some other reasons why cooperating teachers may give minimal feedback? They may hold few conferences. They may spend little time observing their student teachers. I think we can discuss a variety of issues as to why this takes place, but I want you to think about it for a second and think about why this would happen to you if you were a teacher and you were a supervisor for a beginning teacher. Student teachers judge their success based on their management skills and classroom control rather than on learning. Many times we can walk into a classroom, and if that classroom is well behaved and the teacher has control, many times we go, that's a good teacher. But what if no learning was taking place? What if the students were not active? What if the students were not moving and learning at the same time? Well, I think we've misjudged that classroom because what's happening is something that we all desire. But I think we can combine the two. We can have good management skills, we can have good control, but we can also have learning taking place at the same time. So as teachers and as supervisors of beginning teachers, we want them to be self-sufficient, and we want them to be thoughtful teachers. We want them to always be looking at their teaching and looking for ways to get better as a teacher. And if we stop doing that, we're going to stop being successful teachers. And so this week, we're going to look at the evaluation system that's being used in the state of Tennessee. It's called the team model. And so this week you're going to view this website, you're going to explore what team really is, and then you're going to write a 2-page paper and you're going to tell me, what is team? In your words, what do you believe team is? And why would we use team as an evaluation system? What are the positives? Why is team such a good choice to use as an evaluation system? I'm also going to send you an email with a link to the team website, but also to show you how to find the link for the physical education student growth measures that are being used with many schools in the Memphis area this year.